This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks, show number 531, recorded on April 21st, 2022. Here on Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all the favorite tech gadgets that find their way in your home. News, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the AverageGuy.tv studios here in kind of a chilly thunderstorms rolling through. Rich, I'm sure that, is it thunderstorm season? It's always thunderstorm season in Florida, right? You guys
Not the heavy time. When it gets hotter and humider in July, August, it'll be more, but we get a few.
You get a few rolling through there. Of course, we got one rolling through tonight, but it won't affect anything, and I got a backup generator in case we do. Of course, we'll post the show with some world-class show notes out at the AverageGuy.tv. Big thanks to John Biggs, who joined us 2 weeks ago. I got to take a week off last week, and John, thanks for all that you did and all that you brought. Rich, he talked about all this tech health monitoring stuff, 23andMe and Inside Track and some other stuff, just to kind of, for guys like us, just to kind of pay attention to our health. How's Rich Hay is with us tonight, and Rich, longtime host or guest host on here. Rich, welcome back.
Hey, good to be back, Jim.
Health okay for you as we're thinking about health
doing
apps
fine.
and stuff?
Yeah, when you said 23andMe, my immediate thought goes to the little bit of regret that I have having done the 23andMe test. In reality.
Okay, why?
Because because I probably didn't do the research I should have ahead of time. They really do want to get you into their DNA pool for testing and verification and validation of XYZ, right? Literally XY. And so, but again, I've learned a lot from that process, and some of it is quite accurate. Some of it's a little, maybe not. Okay. But knock on wood, health wise, doing very well as far as all that other stuff goes. So,
well, that's always good to hear. At our age, I took a tumble the other day and I hurt my shoulder, and I was like, "Oh, that's gonna last forever."
They don't go away very slowly these days like they used to.
No, they just hang on. I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna need some physical therapy to get this back into shape." Well, it's good to have Rich. Good to have you back on, and good to have you back. We had you back last time we had you on. Last July, so July of 2021, you and I, Mike was with us that night. We spent a lot of time talking about Windows 11. And why don't you, before we kind of dig in and catch up with you, give me your thoughts on Windows 11 today. It's almost a year later, and just give me some high level thoughts on that.
Come on, we're geeks, right? So we're installing Windows 11 just the minute we can, I think. And I certainly do that on all my devices. I did it to my wife's computer without telling her.
Oh,
she noticed that things were a little centered, but other than that, things functioned the way it was supposed to function, right? Mm-hmm. I try not to. I would be an enthusiast for the latest version of Windows, no matter where I worked. Okay. And so the one thing you haven't said to the audience at this point is things have changed a little bit for me since July of last year when I was writing about technology and enterprise technology for itprotoday.com. In October, I got hired at Microsoft. So on October 20th, actually next Monday will be 6 months that I've been working at Microsoft. So I'm one of those old MVPs that kind of, followed the choo-choo train into Microsoft. Unexpected, and we'll talk about the how that all came about. But so I would be a proponent of Windows 11, whether I worked at Microsoft or not. I love the idea of the latest technology. I know Windows 11 has taken a lot of heat. We talked about this last year, the hardware requirements, for instance. And when you look at it in the scheme of things, it's the first time they significantly challenged hardware requirements in like 10 years since Windows 7 age time. And so, but again, people are very passionate about this stuff, and it's not unlike politics. People are passionate about their technology, and they have their camps that they're typically in. And so, like I've always said, whenever I talk about, choose your tech, use your tech, more power to you, use what works for you. And I think that's the case here too.
Yeah.
I do like the OS though. I mean, I'm a fan of the way it works. Microsoft has rolled out Windows 11 across the company. And so my work laptop is running Windows 11, and I've not had any problems with it. So
I've put it both on my Surface Pro and I have put it on a Dell laptop that I have, and I'm on the Insider program, and so
Yeah.
I can do that without the hardware requirements that are required. Neither one of
Right.
those machines meet the hardware requirements.
Right.
In fact, the Windows Pro or the Surface Pro is a Pro 3, which is like just a
Oh,
4 gig.
wow. Yeah.
It's an older one. Runs it just fine. I use it for mostly touchscreen home automation stuff, so I'm not spending
Hmm.
a lot of time on it. The other laptop, however, goes out with me. I do a lot of video stuff on it. I'm on it quite a bit. I'll be 100% honest with you. I can't really tell that much of a
It's holding
difference.
up, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So it's well, and it just works for me. Like I just don't yeah, okay, so some things centered and there's maybe some differences in where I go to get things, but you don't and maybe one of the things that prepared me for it was a year ago, I put a Mac in the middle of all of these Windows PCs.
Wow.
And the goal was to be, could I just compute, right? Could I compute and never know the difference? And so I spent a whole bunch of time figuring out, okay, how do I set this up and be fairly OS agnostic for the most part? Now,
Right.
some things I can get on Mac, I can't get on Windows, and some things I can get on Windows that I can't get on Mac. And so I've got those all figured out. But going kind of OS agnostic for the most part. So switching to 11, okay, like
Right.
it's right. So I don't know if it's as big of a deal today. I mean, I just don't know if it's as big of a deal as
Yeah.
people are making it. Yeah. Yeah. So
No,
uh,
I'm with you on that because,
yeah.
ultimately the OS is expected to do certain things, right? To allow us to run the software we want to run,
Mhm,
to,
mhm.
access the basic utility functionality of the OS and doing what you need to do technically, and then being productive, whether that be on the web or through software, things like that. And most any OS is doing, even Windows 8, one of the most hated upgrades in the world to Windows, could do those things.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well, and most of that pushback comes from the enthusiast community, just to be honest.
absolutely,
Right.
they're
Right.
the
Yeah.
loudest and the
Yeah.
proudest. So
Yeah.
yep, and I hear you. Yep.
Yeah. So I think I'll still say, if you're listening to this show and you haven't tried it, and the Windows Insider program is an easy thing to get on, it
Yep.
will upgrade anything to Windows 11. It gives you a good chance to take a look at it. We're a year into this. I would have no problems today buying a computer that had Windows 11 on it
Yeah.
native and just running with it. I really try to get the OS, even with the phone OS stuff, just try and get the OS out of the way and just kind of become an expert at computing, so to
Yep.
speak.
That's
That's what
it.
it's supposed to be, right?
That's exactly what it
The
is. Yep.
OS was supposed to get out of the way. Well, let's catch up with you, Rich. So that was about a year ago. You were
Yep.
writing for IT Pro, right?
Yep.
At that point. And
Covering
then
enterprise technologies for the most part, collaboration, productivity.
yeah, how did this job at Microsoft appear for you?
Well, I so midsummer-ish last year, maybe a little earlier than July, I was actually working with a company that provides contractors to Microsoft, potentially looking for an option to change things. I was looking for some kind of change. And this was all happening in the background, doing my day job and all of this. But I was discussing things with them, and a couple possibilities popped up in the April timeframe. And what happened was we kind of went through the entire process. So the third party company hires you, pays you, and they're contracted to Microsoft to provide your services to them. Sometimes it's a fixed contract, sometimes it's longer. But it's tied to the fiscal year typically, right? New funding, new positions. So there's always that risk. They decide we're going to not fund this anymore. And therefore, after a year, you're out of job. So I was kind of contemplating that as an option. The decision kind of got made for me because the team that I was going to, that I had been cleared through, I'd done all all the hurdles that had to be done. And then about 2 weeks before the end of the fiscal year, they had their funding cut for this position.
Mm,
So it died on the vine. So
mhm.
stayed where I was doing the things I was doing. And then about August, right? Not long after we did that show in July, a buddy of mine who is also a fellow MVP and somebody who I've known through social media for a long time, Harjit Diwali, who had gone to work for Microsoft last March as a customer engineer, um, pinged me on Twitter and said, Rich, you should check this position out. And he sends me a link to a job description. And I go and look at it. And, it said that you had to have like 3 years of in title experience as a community manager, and it had a bunch of this other stuff you typically see. No degree requirement. I thought, okay, right. And so we kind of talked back and forth about it. I was like, I really don't meet this. Yes, I've been in community, but I've never really run a community per se. And he's like, Rich, just apply, see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
So I applied. And then I took advantage of the people I know within Microsoft that I've been working alongside for years upon years, and asked them to reach out to the hiring manager. They did. A handful of them did. And sent him emails about me and their relationship with me and stuff like that. That got me a phone interview. Mm-hmm. So that kind of skipped the whole recruiter thing. And it took me directly to a phone call with one of the principal primary program managers. We chatted. That got me in the loop. At Microsoft, they have an interesting interview process. Now, this was a non-technical interview, right? I'm not in a technical position. I'm not a dev or something like that, engineer. So what they do in an interview loop, it's 4 1-hour interviews over the course of a single day. And so the recruiter and those folks get you scheduled for this. You figure out your availability. They schedule you. You find out when you're doing things. And of course, everything was on Teams because that's kind of the way it was. Mm-hmm. And the team I'm on now is a remote first team. In fact, when this team was built out a few years ago, it was remote. And so you go through your 4 1-hour interviews, and I met with different PMs on the team. I met with who is now my manager, and then one of the partner program teams that we work with, and did the interviews, talked through some stuff. They asked a few scenario things, that kind of stuff. So just great conversations, right? And I knew the manager. He said, I'm going on vacation the day after we finish this interview, so I'll get back to you in about 10 days. And 10 days later, he reaches out to me and says, we're going to offer you the job. Nice. The next day, I get the electronic documentation of that offer process. And then you go through with the recruiter, you have to negotiate the compensation stuff. Mm-hmm. Probably the worst part of the whole process. Oh, yeah. And so once that all gets figured out, you electronically sign your offer letter. That allows them to then initiate a background check. So the position I'm in required a cloud background check because I'm working with customer data and stuff like that. And that takes about 10 days typically through a third-party company that does it for Microsoft. So that's the thing where they check your criminal record. They check the courthouse. They check all these things to make sure you're who you are and that you've been to school where you said you've been to school, stuff like that, or worked for whoever you worked for. And I apparently had one of the smoothest processing experiences that my buddy had heard of. There's been some really extended periods, and usually that's related to accessibility of the data, right? Especially if you're coming from overseas or something like that. But that got done in 10 days. And the following Monday, it was like, okay, you've passed your screen. You're ready to go. Now we can pick your start date. Nice. Pick the start date. And in fact, so October 25th, the day I started, was the 20th anniversary of Windows XP.
Oh, nice.
So that was kind of a cool connection there.
Easy to remember.
Exactly. And so, and then it was a matter of letting my old job know, working through those final couple weeks there. And then I took about a week off, I think, kind of in between to just kind of decompress and contemplate what was going on. It still blows me away. Even today, it's like a kid in a candy store feeling that I work for Microsoft. Yeah. It's something I never imagined, wasn't necessarily looking for, but I was exploring. Mm-hmm. And then for this specific position to come up and the nature of it being community driven, was just, it really fit with what how I approach stuff. So, it's great. And it's been a blast. And I got to tell you, Jim, what blows me away. So we've been looking at Microsoft from the outside in for a long time, right? As MVPs, as insiders, we interact with the product teams and out through all these forums, right? Through Summit, Build, Ignite, whatever the event is. What has blown me away about Microsoft's internal culture is the collaboration. Working cross-platform, cross-team. I've not yet to find a silo that you can't, that exists up and down. Everything is across the board. And so you work with other people on other teams to kind of use that synergy to create and to build and to do things that just blow me away. I mean, I am having an absolute blast every morning, getting up and going to my work. Going right here, by the way, this is my Microsoft Office right here to my right. I'm on my personal computer here, but this is my Microsoft Office. You know, so I love getting up and coming here and firing up the computer and starting the day. I'm a little time shifted. One of the pluses of this we are a global team. We've got folks over in Shanghai. We've got folks across the US and a good portion of them over in the Northwest. I get a little bit of a time shift, right? To the right, about 2 hours, 3 hours in my mornings. Great time to focus and get caught up with the night and stuff like that. It means you push a little bit later at the end of the day, but that's worked out fine too. So, I mean, living the dream is really it's a cliche, but it really is a blast to be here. And the experience of getting on board, the help, the number of people that are willing to reach out. And of course, I know a lot of people inside of Microsoft. So the first day I logged into Teams, I had all kinds of little team chats from people, you know, that were welcoming me aboard, that knew I was coming. So it's been a blast. I can't believe it. Still can't.
Well, congratulations on
Thank
that.
you.
And I was always impressed when we went out for MVP Summit. I was always impressed with the way they treated each other. Like it was just a very friendly, and you know, listen, that's a broad generalization, but it was just a very friendly culture. I always had a good time on campus. And you're right with is most of the team for you in Washington, or
no? We're pretty spread out. Folks in Texas. Our dev lead is in Orlando. I got to meet him last November when I was down there for the week. We actually met for coffee and talked. We've got folks in Texas. We've got folks in here on the East Coast and Midwest, up Northwest. We got folks in California. And again, like I mentioned, we got some folks overseas as well in Shanghai. So it's a very global team. And again, when you work with other teams in collaboration, I work with somebody I meet with regularly that's in Australia. So her morning is my night, but it works out that we connect at that right time of day to get 30 minutes to kind of collaborate. And so you make it work. And the team I'm on, the Microsoft Q&A platform team I'm on, is remote. They started that way when the team was built a few years ago. So it was never a consideration that this was about a temporary remote or anything like that. Because I don't know that I'd have done the job interview and taken the position if it meant moving. That would be the one thing I'd say.
Sure. Yeah, it's a big commitment to make that. A lot of growth going on there on the Redmond campus,
big time.
As well.
You see that video that GeekWire posted this week? They
No,
posted a drone video showing the progress from last January, February timeframe to this April, showing the progress on the new campus where they tore down the original buildings.
The old buildings.
It's pretty amazing video. Yeah.
Light rail coming in. Do they have
light rail station coming in? They showed some pictures of that.
Yeah.
And I can't wait. I've got my blue badge hanging over here over my desk, which I can't use daily. I can walk around with it on my neck and pretend. I can't wait to go out to campus as an FTE, as a Microsoft employee, and check that out and that experience.
So let's talk about the role. I'm a community manager too, but it looks very different, I imagine, for what you're doing. So what are they paying you to do? What's day to day look like for you?
My title is as community manager for Microsoft Q&A. So if you're not familiar with Microsoft Q&A is a questions and answer platform, exactly like the name kind of alludes to. Customers can come in there and ask a question about a product, platform, or service. We do focus on enterprise type solutions and IT pro, that type of thing, not so much consumer type stuff. And folks can come in there and ask a question about that. Everything's segregated by tags, so you can tag a certain product. People follow tags, so our community and volunteers can. There you go. You're looking at the all questions page there on Microsoft Q&A. And so people can come in here, post a question. People can come in here and comment on a question, or they can provide an answer on a question. And so the goal there is to help people solve their issues, but also to make a searchable database of solutions. Because what can happen here, one of the neat features about Q&A is that person that originally posted the question, if someone comes in and provides an answer that solves their problem, they get prompted to select that as the accepted answer. And when they do that, that now gives that some credibility as in providing a solution to that issue. And so that helps that data get searched and discovered on the platform as well. When somebody searches on here, they can find information that used to be on MSDN and TechNet Both those forums are archived, but they are searchable. Substack, we expose Substack related results in our search queries because we know that Substack's a great platform for finding solutions for our customers as well. And so this is what you're looking at here. You're looking at the Windows 11 tag. So we do talk a little Windows 11 in there. I don't know what the latest thing on there. Yeah, just in the last day or so.
Yeah.
And so we don't turn people away because it may be a consumer angled question. But people come here to ask for help. We try to avoid it being a forum type of an activity. Ask a question, get an answer. Use comments to kind of amplify or clarify. We have a tremendous community involvement. We have what's called the community champions. So these are folks, MVPs, non-MVPs, that go in here and help and answer questions and stuff like that. We have people, again, located worldwide that are jumping in here at different times, day and night, to answer questions and to help people out. And it's like any site. I mean, the ability to go in here and just ask a question is just immediate. You sign up for a Docs profile. That gets you access to be able to post a question. And so you can jump in there and ask your question. Even if it's only your first time asking a question, you're probably going to get some kind of help there.
What kind of numbers do you think, when you think about the community, do you ever try to get an idea of how big the community is just in general?
Yes and no. So the platform, community wise, part of the reason I was hired last October is I was hired as the first community manager because we are starting to build out the community engagement across the platform. Mm-hmm. So there's still work to be done. There's still other product groups and product teams to come on board and start to really invest into the community there. But that's a project we're working on that is on my plate to help build it out because, again, community really drives. Now you'll find some Microsoft engineers in here. You'll find some Microsoft customer service folks in here answering questions. So you get a wide variety of people. So you got full-time employees, you got engineers that are in there for the sole purpose of answering questions for their platform. And then you've got folks that from the community that are just interested in helping. It is a majority of quite a few MVPs that are engaged. We know that, although I can't share the data that we shared at the MVP Summit, but MVPs make a significant impact on this platform.
Is it kind of the direction Microsoft's going forward as the Q&A of choice? They've got a different, the insider program is a way. There's an app for the insiders to do some things. Yeah. Is this a direction of a few? Because it's really hard for a big organization to get one way to do things.
Correct? Yeah, it's a tool.
Yeah,
it's an option, right? Because if consumers are looking for help, they usually go to Microsoft Answers, right? Another great community and places. In fact, today I spoke to the new community manager for Tech Community. Tech Community is also a very big engaged community where the product teams are engaged and folks are talking to them. So we do, and they're three very different platforms with very different focuses and things like that. And I think they can coexist because they each bring their own uniqueness to the table.
You are in kind of the cloud organization, right? In Microsoft.
I am.
So
yep.
Is that why this leans a little bit towards a lot of the cloud services server side of that?
Well, if you were to go to the main product page, there's 16 product groups represented across Q&A. So you can dive in each of those product groups kind of have a subdivision of tags that fall under it. So people can really drill down. You can search the tags as well, but you can really drill down to where you're looking at. And so if there's an expert of some type, whether it be Microsoft person or platform product team, or whether it be a community volunteer, they can subscribe and follow tags. And so when a new question's posted, they get an alert that there's a question. It kind of helps speed up that transition time. And so, so you're looking at all the different these are the large kind of groupings. And then each of these break down. And so if you were to click on one of those, you'll find sub stuff underneath that. So as you see, the shift goes to apps, SDKs, APIs, subsystem for Android, and things of that nature, as opposed to, but we do have some IT Pro stuff here with server too. So you can really drill down to where you're looking for and go in there and find either potentially an answer, or if you don't, ask your question.
Yeah, it looks like a
It's
powerful
an
platform.
extremely flexible platform as far as the scope of what they're able to do on there and how people can interact with it.
So, what's been your favorite part so far? You've been doing it 6 months, right? So
Yeah.
you're past the honeymoon phase a little bit. You know
I don't know
the
about past the honeymoon phase yet. I'm still drinking from the fire hose on some days.
yeah, yeah,
I got to tell you, I think the collaboration has blown me away
mm,
more than anything. Is the fact that and the way, if I'm trying to address an issue or a challenge, or maybe trying to innovate and come up with ideas for down the road, it's just a matter of finding that right person wherever they're at and starting to talk to them. And I'm on a few different cross-platform teams where we're working on different projects and different initiatives, doing research, doing brainstorming. So we just come together, all of us with our own different unique perspectives, and we share, we talk, and then we ultimately, that leads to a recommendation or a suggestion to the leadership for something we might do, usually around the business, trying to help the business grow, of course, because you're not in business to not grow. So
mhm,
I think the fact that there aren't any silos, I've not
mm,
yet found in 6 months a siloed place. So I've not been able to reach out into another team or to contact, if I got a curiosity question about a certain platform, I go find that person or find somebody who knows that person. And guess what? Teams makes it so easy. Quick chat, right? Hey, I'm Rich. This is what I do. I'm really curious to talk to you about XYZ. They usually respond back. We get some time on the calendar and we start a discussion. I mean,
mm,
that just happens nearly
mhm,
daily, the
mm.
ability to reach out to people.
So, what do you think? Let's think to the future. What do you think as you look ahead for this role over the next year or so? What gets you excited to wake up in the morning? I mean, what kinds of things are you going to get an opportunity to do or to grow, kind of, and keep you engaged from that
Yeah,
perspective?
yeah, I think it's community. I really do, because again, one of the things I was asked to do when I came in here was that we have to scale out our community. It's been the platform's only a couple years old, right? It launched in preview in October of 2019, so it's just barely hit gonna 2.5 years since it's been around, and I
Mhm.
think GA was in May of 2020. So we're just at 2 years, really. The platform's been in general availability. So I think growing the community, finding out the real impact of community across the platform, and starting to kind of harness that. And the other thing I want to do big time is to start to recognize our contributors.
Mhm.
Many of them are MVPs, some are not.
Mhm.
And the opportunity to recognize people's efforts and what they're doing is a real big deal, because they're giving of their time. We've got one fella who's retired, lives over in Texas, and he just spends 6 days a week hanging out on Q&A, helping people.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
what he enjoys. It's what he
Mhm.
likes to do in his retirement. He used to work for the railroad, I think, and that's just what he does. That's what he
Yeah.
enjoys. And I mean, and this guy is a machine with the
Mm.
volume of stuff that he does, but
Yeah.
the quality of the work too. Because volume is good, productivity is good, but quality is real good too. Is important.
I have a guy in Europe who does that for me in our communities, and so when I'm sleeping, he's awake, and it works out kind of perfectly.
Yep.
Our communities are not as big; they're still pretty large, but not as big as what we're talking about here. And so it's kind of nice, with our Facebook group's about 15,000, and so it
Mm.
gets. I probably get 3 or 4 questions overnight, and he picks up the ones that can be answered, and it is nice when you think about when you say, okay, to grow the community. So
Hmm.
how does one in this scenario, like, I understand the MVP program, how that gets grown. How do you grow? What do you do to grow this community? What kind of things do you actually have to do to get the community to grow?
Well, I think first off is evangelizing the platform, talking about Q&A. It is a young platform, so there are folks that don't know about it, that haven't heard about it. So that's one part of it, right? You got to get the word out there and you got to talk about it. And so, looking for opportunities to do that. And we do, we have a monthly leaderboard for the Azure tags, right? That we generate a monthly leaderboard of the top contributors. We look to do that across all the product groups as we expand and grow and scale the platform, scale the community across the platform. So just those little kind of tweaks to be able to find the folks that are really contributing. And that's the thing we're working on now, is to really come up with and understand who the community members are and why they're there and what they're doing and how they're contributing. So
Mm. Okay. Yeah, it's like a traditional community from
Yeah.
that standpoint, right?
What
Bring them
drives
in,
them?
recognize people,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But
And then you want to recruit, you want to bring more people in, right? To keep it fresh
yeah,
and keep it growing as
yeah,
well.
yeah. Brian in the chat says in the school setting, we started using Teams as a result of required remote learning, but now that we're back in person, we still heavily rely on it. And I think this is one of those things that'll never go away for a lot of folks. We definitely amped up the way we used Teams or some of those other collaboration. In Teams,
You can
different than
say
Zoom, but
Zoom. You can say Zoom.
but it's a different like
It's a
I
different
would never yeah, I would never go to Zoom to chat with people. Like I just
right,
that's
right. You're
only
right.
a
Yeah.
for me, it's only a call platform
Yep.
where we use Teams at Gallup. We use Teams behind the scenes to chat with each other. We've got groups. Some groups are chattier than others.
Yep.
You've got some ability to kind of tone those down or turn them up, kind of based on
Yep.
what you need, right?
Yep.
I think we went to Teams right at the beginning of the pandemic and have used it. I was a little skeptical at first. I was like, oh,
Oh, about
oh,
Teams?
yeah, about Teams, yeah, and it's like, I don't know, and it's been a good I mean, it has really we've gone full scale. We still have some issues with it with external when we try to bring external people in,
Yeah.
so we're hybrid. Use a little Zoom when it needs to be, when it's folks who are outside of our of the domain, so to speak. But Teams has worked well, and we built some things on top of it, and that's worked out, pretty well. I know Microsoft is one of those organizations.
Oh, we don't use Teams. We don't use
They
Teams.
oh no, they definitely do. They definitely do. And it's great to see those kinds of those things take hold. And then there's
Yeah.
outside products in there as well. But
Yeah,
it's
no,
it
Teams really, I think probably one of the best pieces of, but especially with a global team that I'm part of. Sometimes I got to leave a note for somebody
yeah,
over in Shanghai or in New Zealand or somewhere on the other side of the world. And the asynchronous ability to communicate in your time zone when you need to. And this is the other thing. People understand not everybody works in the same place in the same time. And so there's such an amount of courtesy from people to say, I mean, even Outlook has features, right? Where you can schedule your email to somebody to go to them in their time zone, right? Instead of dropping a temptation into their box at 9 o'clock at night that they might be tempted to look, right? So I love the way that Microsoft has developed these tools to really allow collaboration to happen naturally without having to artificially, do something at 10 o'clock at night or, to allow people that work-life balance. And Teams, I just simply love the ability of Teams that, again, find the person, find their name, drop them a quick note. Don't just say hi, right? Hello. Don't you just ask outright. There's this really popular link on a lot of people's Teams status that's called what's it say? No Hi, I think it is, or nohi.com. I hope I don't send people to a horrible website with that. But it's basically just don't say hi, just post your question and post it, right? And so I've gotten into that habit. And then whenever they see it, whenever they get to it, whenever their day is that they're checking their Teams chat, they're going to respond to it at that point. It's there's, but to me, it's just, I find it much more convenient than email. I don't know why. Email
oh,
just
for
feels that
sure.
little more formal than a Teams chat.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I remember back to the days of ICQ and
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
AOL IM and all of that stuff that we used to have in those days. But Teams really allows that kind of casual collaboration through a Teams chat note. And which, oh, by the way, if it gets to real serious discussion, it's a one-click button to have a phone call going on, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Or do the email for the more formal kind of thing. But I've really enjoyed, and we were using Teams at my old job before I left, Informa and IT Pro Today. But Teams is just, I would be talking about this product like this even if I didn't work for Microsoft, because it is, I find it to be such a great collaborative tool. And it really,
Yeah.
again, I probably spend 80% of my day in Teams, when I'm not in Word or PowerPoint or I do email. Email's a necessity, but I probably spend most of my time in the one program would be Teams.
Yeah. No, I do like, there's this kind of saying, that goes around the internet that a meeting could have been an email.
Oh,
And
could have been a Teams
I'm actually,
chat.
I actually say that email should have been a meeting. And because emails and even chat gets misread.
Yeah.
Although I think email has a higher propensity to be misread than chat for whatever reason. Like you just don't read chat the same way you read email. And
Yeah.
so many, and then everybody like a thread will get started around a bunch of chatty people, and all of a sudden have 17 emails that
Yeah.
aren't then I got to figure out the thread and who said what when. Just like, guys, either take it to Teams or set up a quick meeting. Like
Yeah.
pre-pandemic, that was a lot harder, I think, for folks to kind of think of being on camera or having a good microphone, whatever. But we gave everybody great mics. We gave everybody cameras to make sure it was going to work. And so now it's just for me, if it's going to be more than 2 sentences, I just ping them. You got a minute? Can we just talk? It's just
Yep.
so much faster, and then you can go back and forth and get it done. So,
Yeah. I like the
just
transcripting. I like the
yeah,
recordings because those are
yeah.
searchable and stuff like that too. So
Yeah.
it's been a
We
great
haven't
tool.
really done much of that. Has the new job with Microsoft brought any new gadgets your way? Because you're in
Because
the
I'm at
ecosystem?
Microsoft.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nah, not really. The work laptop they sent me was a Lenovo ThinkPad X1 Gen 6
Okay.
device.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And I was kind of holding out outside hope that maybe a Surface Studio would have been in
Mhm.
my,
Mhm.
delivered
Mhm.
by FedEx, but oh
Yeah.
well, no, it wasn't. But no, this Lenovo device, they kit you out pretty good in our organization. So, and I don't know if this applies to all new employees, but they shipped me. So before my first day, I had the laptop on board. I had a 27-inch ThinkPad monitor, a
Mhm.
ThinkPad dock, mouse, keyboard, headset, boom mic, all that kind of stuff to be able to set up my workstation. And so, in that time I was off and stuff like that, I very purposely I segregate my Microsoft Office from my desk, right? Because I
Mhm.
try not to do any other work there except for work, right? I don't do work on my personal device, and I think it's important to have that separation, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
but so I think the only thing I invested in that was not sent to me by them was I bought a second Logitech Brio camera because
Mhm.
unfortunately the camera on the monitor was not that good. So I
It's not.
wanted that better definition because again,
Yeah.
we spend most of our time on calls. Although I will,
Yeah.
most people will initially check in with their camera on and say, "Hey, I'm here, doing great, thank you," and then most people go off camera to conduct
Mm.
the meeting by voice. But so I think that's probably the only thing I kind of invested in outside of that. We've had a couple of internal events where they've given us a choice of gadgets to pick. And, I'm not talking about Surface Duo 2 or something like that, but I did get myself a ring light from one of those
Oh,
events. So I
nice.
have a ring
Nice.
light at my
Yeah.
work desk that helps with
Yep.
the quality of the video and
Lighting.
stuff like that
Yep.
because you
Yep.
want people to better see, especially when you need
Yes.
those the interactions face to face. But all in all, it's just so they give you good kit that first day. Once I passed that cloud screening and I had my start date, things moved along pretty quick. The
Mm.
business manager reaches out and starts to make sure you're getting the right things that you need. Day one, I did have a little bit of a wait for my manager because of, again, the time difference, but he had my credentials waiting for me. I had the laptop already. You know me, I already had the laptop updated and ready
Mhm.
to go. And then and they ship it to you basically ready to log in with your credentials. It sets up everything for you, and I was up and running within just a couple hours of
Mm.
officially being on the job.
Yeah.
And then it's just been a matter of, you do your typical new employee stuff. There's all orientation and all that kind of stuff, benefits. And, Microsoft has a great benefits package, all of the stuff that comes with it. And then it's just, for me, the hardest thing was once I kind of got over that initial hump was finding my pace, finding my
Mhm.
routine. There are variations that happen, and I guess I would say after 6 months, my calendar is filled up with quite a few, one-on-ones and syncs and team this, team that. But again, it's a flow that is not disruptive. I mean, that's again, most of the time we spend working is collaborating to come up with where we're going to go. Then you do the grunt work, right? Then you create the
Mhm.
documents. And I tell you what,
Yeah.
I've learned to use GitHub. Never thought
Mm.
I'd be a guy
Oh,
who pushed the
there you go.
live.
Yeah.
I've been able to do merge the live just a few days ago. We do all the
Nice.
documentation in GitHub. So all our Q&A
Yeah.
documentation is
Oh,
on
good.
GitHub. I've learned about branches. I've learned how to do forks. I've learned how to do when I was doing my initial documentation review, I had my own branch of the repo. I was plugging away in it. And when it was ready, I just pushed the pull request to our platform lead. She approved it for me and it went live. I was like, dude, that's kind of cool. Stuff I just wrote just went live on a Microsoft.com site. That's that kid in the candy store stuff that still happens.
Yeah. Yeah. I need, that's one thing. I wish I was using more Git from time to time and for documentation and some of those things. I'm not great at that, and I'm not forced to do it. Like I don't have a team around me doing it, but
right.
if I did, it'd be
speaking
fun
of gadgets, did you see recently they knocked about $500 off the Surface Duo 2?
I saw that. I still don't know if I'd buy it. Would you?
I don't know. Let me say that discount is not available to us in the employee store.
Oh, okay.
That's something the commercial folks are, the carrier or whoever's selling it is doing.
They're doing it that way. They're taking the hit.
By the way, that's also a very cool benefit. Employee store.
Yeah. Well, and it's all online.
It's all online. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Although they're back on campus now. So we are at a state where people are able to go back on campus. And because we're at what they call, I think, whatever level we're at there is a process through an app we have that is available on our phones to kind of show proof of either negative tests and things like that most companies are doing. But people are back on campus. So I am starting to see other people on teams I work with, not my team per se, that are working out of campus and conference rooms there. There you go. Yeah, $9.99 at Best Buy.
Yeah, and a couple different places, 128 gig of RAM or of 128 gig storage. Do you think, that's $1,000, Rich? That's still $1,000.
I mean, I paid that for my S21.
Yeah.
For my Galaxy, but it is,
yeah.
and that's last fall's device. So from an
right.
outsider, and again, here's the other lesson learned about being at Microsoft. I couldn't tell you a clue about what the Windows team is doing in Windows 11. I couldn't tell you what the Surface team is doing in hardware. I guess that's where the silos come in at, right? What teams are working on. So I couldn't give you a clue if there's a new Surface coming or if there's, Windows 11 or whatever it is. But so that, I guess, outside of the collaboration that happens quite nicely, there are still, those internal functions on teams that happen, outside of the sight of other members of the company. People hear you work for Microsoft, so they're automatically going, well, Windows 11, or, that's the typical connection most people will make.
Yeah.
But, so I don't know. I find the device, I've always found the Surface Duo. I was at the launch event in New York City in my other job for the Surface Duo, what would have been October of 2019, right before we went into the pandemic lockdown. And so I was there in New York City for that launch, and it was a hard device to get close to. You had to have had an appointment with an exec that was there showing off the device. And but I tell you what, man, it's I think the potential of a dual screen device in that mode, as in a foldable, but yet they're two distinct screens. I just think reliability wise, I haven't seen any new numbers on reliability of folding devices, but there were some real issues with the screens and issues around them. Whereas with this, it's two distinct screens that are hinged together. So I do like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
man, it's tempting. They are, I guess they're going to put Android 12 on it, or it's getting Android 12, which is the latest release of Android. So
yeah,
I'm kind of stuck in my Samsung Galaxy devices these days.
Yeah. Well, I'm an iPhone guy. Notice it's got Google on the on the search bar up top.
Oh yeah, no, because it's Android based. Yep.
Right. Yeah,
that's
funny. I don't know. It's a good
to me that price, that's a pretty good deal. Yeah. But again, I don't know. I don't know.
I think in my use case, right, I do I try to with my job, I have to write a lot for my job for customers. Like I'm talking to customers all the time, and that's just not super convenient to do on the phone.
Yeah,
And
it's not
so
as productive as a laptop, for instance, or a
no,
Surface
no,
device or something like that.
and this gets you kind of close, but not really that much closer. So,
Yeah.
um, like anything, first version of it, and so it's I hopefully things will get better. Brian in the chat says I'm solidly an Apple
Mm.
ecosystem,
Yep.
but I too like the hinge style for a folding phone. I mean, I do think they got it right. I know Samsung's trying to get that fold to be the screen to fold as well, and
Right.
they've had
And they
some
had some
limited
issues
success.
with that first
Yeah,
generation too. So, I mean, look, that is the challenge with technology, right? Is that
right.
somebody's got to be first in trying this stuff out. I mean, we could really be extreme and go back to Bill Gates days in Microsoft when they launched a tablet back. Well, I forget the timing on it, but right, they did. It was way too early for the time and thing. So anytime
Yeah.
technology launches or technology is developed and new stuff comes about, sometimes they can be well ahead of their time and just not catch on. And then later, everything starts to grab and take
Mhm.
hold. So
Mhm.
it's
I
a good looking device, especially that black one that came out, Surface Duo 2, the Obsidian.
it's also got that weird camera
It's
bump,
got the bump. Yeah, it's got the
you know,
bump. I mean,
on the
my phone's got the
backside.
bump. I mean,
Yeah.
my S21's got the bump, although my case does a pretty good job of minimizing it. But
Yeah, it does,
yep,
right? You put a case on it,
right.
and I guess
Put
you
the
could do the same thing
Yep.
here.
The
I
rumors
it
are that iPhones may be working on
see,
something.
I was just gonna say, if Apple did this, it would this that may be something for
It
me,
would
the extra
it
screen real estate
Yeah, it'll
could
be
be
interesting to
helpful.
watch.
Yeah,
That's
could be
why I love being in technology. I love working around
yeah.
technology. And now I got to tell you, seeing how the sausage is made in a sense of
Mhm.
how products are
Mhm.
developed and how they move down their development path, it's enlightening. I mean, again, we're different types of geeks, right? The folks that usually would listen to this program, because we're enthusiasts and we're power users, and so we're already pretty close to understanding that things that it's just a flip of the switch to do something. One change to one thing can impact an entire circle of things, and so each and every little tweak and step has to be evaluated. Whereas I would say a majority of folks that are out on the outside watching, maybe watching Windows 11 through the insider builds or whatever it is, they're going, well, we'll just fix it. Just it's an easy fix. That's you usually hear it's an easy fix, and it may seem like an easy fix, but I'm learning, as I see how things are made. I mean, first off, that's just a tremendously enlightening insight to see how the product platform, how products go through their development cycles,
Yeah.
and how things are prioritized and all of this stuff. I recently got to go through some training on product ownership. So somebody who owns a product, whether it be a platform or service or a device or whatever it is, and how you go from ideation to that release and how often you do it and all that kind of stuff. So it's to me, it blew me. I'd never been through anything like that. I certainly owned processes back in the day in the Navy. I was responsible for
Mhm.
moving a squadron of 300 people from Jacksonville, Florida to San Diego, California. That just doesn't happen by picking up a phone. You got to
Mhm.
plan. And it's the same thing in anything. You have to do that with the
Mhm.
kind of work you do. With you have to plan. You can't just
Right.
walk in the morning and go, okay, we're going to do X, Y, Z, which is like this full blown event. You don't do build by saying I'm going to do build next month or ignite or game developer conference or whatever it is. So yeah, it's not something that turns on a dime.
Yeah.
Products and
Yeah.
platforms just don't turn on a dime.
No, no. Joe in the chat room, as we're looking at the Duo, he says, "Bring back Windows Mobile." Hashtag bring back Windows Mobile. That would have been, to be honest, that would have been a dynamite OS to have on a Duo. Just to be honest, it would have been, and I know why, and I know all those things,
Yeah.
right? It was a different time, different era, but boy, that'd have been a
It would
dynamite
have been
thing to have.
interesting to have that UI,
Uh
that
huh.
tile-based UI on that type, the sliding stuff back. Again, same
Yeah.
concepts that they're doing now, but to have that with the Windows mobile platform. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd have been pretty good. Today I picked up, I should show you this today. It just came in. I did a Woot special. These are a couple years old, but We replaced the I had a 5 Echo Show 5, and I
Uh-huh.
replaced it with the Echo Show that's the 7-inch screen,
Oh,
and
okay.
I kind of thought you can kind of see it here on screen. It's
Got a big
a
speaker.
review does have a big speaker, and
Yeah.
it was a really nice upgrade. And now I got it on Woot for
You
25
had the 5,
bucks.
you said.
I had the
Say
5.
what?
Yeah,
Yeah, I've got a
yeah,
5 in my office. So I've got a 5 sitting over here to my
right.
right that I use for listening to music alerts and stuff like that. Reminder. I use it for a lot of math. I don't know about you. When I'm
Yeah,
crunching numbers,
yeah,
I ask
yeah,
Alexa to crunch numbers for me. Don't
yeah.
do that, Alexa. Um, but I do. I say, Alexa, what percentage is X of X? And it's awesome because she takes
Yeah.
care of it for me. But yeah, I love
The
the 5. I got it because it was so compact. And again, it
Right.
was probably a deal, a special. But
Yeah.
25 bucks for the 7-inch one, that's a
25
good
on
deal.
Woot. That's a couple years old. It's a refurb, whatever. My
Okay.
5 was going, the screen was starting to
Mhm.
flicker a little bit, and when this came up, I was like, yeah, how can I not spend, and it's a really good kitchen device. Like, again,
Yeah.
you get it, we have it in the kitchen. You
Yep.
can see it from far away. It's got a lot of functionality on it. Of course, the new UI, there's been some additions to the UI on these devices, and they've gotten better. Timers are more visible. The weather
Yeah,
app's
very much
gotten
so.
better.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Because
So
we have the larger Echo, so I don't know what size it is, but we have the large Echo in
10,
our kitchen.
15,
The 10, I think it's the
probably a
10-inch,
10
not the
round
15.
base. Yeah.
It's the round kind of angled or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, my wife loves it. She catches recipes on there.
Yeah.
Uh, Lately, Alexa's been offering to tell a lot of jokes. So, she'll engage with the stuff there, the weather or whatever it might be.
You picked up this one. Let's just show that there, right? You got
Oh, no,
this.
that's not the one I got. So I must
Okay.
have like second gen. It would be, maybe it's an 8-inch.
Let's
It's
look
actually
there.
one that Amazon sent me.
Oh, okay. So is it the Show 8?
Yeah, the
That's
Show
the
8. There
Echo.
you go. That's the
Okay.
one I have in my kitchen. So that's a
Yeah.
couple years old now, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I've
Well,
had
this
that
one's
for
the
a while.
2021 release, but I think there was probably, 2019
Yeah, I
or so
probably
when
have
it
the
came out.
first gen. It was something I think Amazon sent it to me for a review, kind of influencer type thing at the
Sure.
time. And again, also a very big clear screen, pretty good speaker,
Mhm.
really good speaker on it.
Mhm.
And we do all our home automation through Alexa. I mean, it's just where
Yeah,
we've
why
kind
wouldn't
of
you?
defaulted. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, why wouldn't you? It works out pretty well for most people. Easy to set up, easy to use. They now have a 15-inch version of this. Aaron Lawrence, who comes on from time to time, reviewed that and has had that. And now that's a whole different beast. I mean, that's
That's
hanging
almost a tablet hanging up,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But
15 inch.
it's
So I'm trying to think size wise.
and you
I
hang it
have
in portrait mode,
so I have
yeah,
the Surface Laptop 4. That's a 15-inch screen.
right.
So that's a pretty big chunk of screen to be hanging up.
Yeah,
Probably
kind
not
of
that thin either, is it? Probably not as thin
intended to
as that
be, and
screen.
it's 15.6. Here, let me show
Oh
this real
wow, it's almost 16 inches.
so you got a pretty good size. Let's bring it again. Apologize for those who are on the audio side of things, but you get this. I mean, you almost get this picture frame kind of look hanging in
Right.
landscape here. You can put it in portrait as well. It's got a camera associated with it. I think we talked about it a little bit the last time she was on, but kind of meant to be the family hub, right?
Right.
You can come in, calendar, the UI is kind of built for that. This is one of the things where I've actually been kind of impressed with Amazon's UI, where they seem to be getting it right per device, right? And it
Yeah,
would
for the
be easy
different
to kind
size
of
screen.
yeah, for the different screens. So it came in, we set it up. I had it running in about 10 minutes. It kind of joined the network, got on, did its thing. The much better speaker than the 5 had on it,
Really?
and made a nice addition. Yeah, for 25
Oh, hold
bucks.
on. You're talking again about the one you just
The
got from
7.
Woot.
Yeah, the
Oh,
7
the
we got
7. Yeah.
today. Yeah, the 7, the
Very
show
cool.
7-inch. So, any other Rich, any other gadgets you've been eyeballing either to looking for the future here or anything you've picked up since the last time we saw you that you really like?
Not, I mean, I like I said, I have the Surface Laptop 4 these days, one of the last devices Microsoft sent me before I left IT Pro today.
Mhm.
And again, my wife uses the Surface Laptop 3. She
Yeah.
loves that device. She's moved off an old ancient desktop. Actually, I replaced her old desktop with a little what do they call those things? little square, not Power
Like
PC, but it's like one of those
a
really
Nook?
small, not
Like
the,
an
it's like a Nook. It's a very
okay.
small device. I think I picked it up for about $210 her. It's running Windows 11, by the way, just
Oh,
fine, no problem release. And she's actually hardly ever on her desktop anymore. She mostly spends her time on her laptop. So she's kind of really shifted to laptop mobile as opposed to a desktop. But yeah, no, outside of that, it's the latest upgrades to the 21s last fall. I've kind of settled in, I think, gadget
mm,
wise.
mhm.
And I do have, back in the back corner here, I have a sound bar that Tribit sent me to take a look at. This will be the last device I officially look at as a quote unquote influencer. But it's an HDMI based sound bar for your TV or your computer desk or something like that. But outside of that, I'm kind of in a holding pattern when it
Yeah,
comes to
yeah,
tech.
yeah.
And I've started to install some switches in the house,
Mhm,
smart switches.
mhm, mhm.
Unfortunately, I've discovered also that anywhere I have a double switch, that in order to save a little bit of money, the construction company used one ground wire for the
Oh,
two
yeah.
switches, which
Mhm.
they kind of cross over. But most of the smart light switches and stuff like that require individual grounds, and so they don't work in a double gang setup.
Mm.
So it's unfortunate
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it takes those out of play. So for
yeah.
instance, like, in this home office, I can control my fan because it's also my light on a single gang
Mhm.
switch. But out in the living room, it's a double gang, can't do it. So where I've been able to upgrade switches, I did those. First one, I really spent a lot of time looking at YouTube because I'm not an electrician. But I spent a lot of time watching and looking at YouTube, figured it out, and got the process down, and was able to do it pretty easy. So I think everywhere I've got singles, I've changed them to smart switches. So, and I've played with the whole scheme thing. I can get up in the morning and say, "Good morning, Alexa," and she'll turn on the lights I need to get my morning started and do my thing. But yeah, kind of for the most part, just a holding pattern. Now, see, this is where I think I'm going to in my next evolution tech wise. I am
Yeah.
interested in Eufy, right? I chose
Mhm,
to go with
mhm.
Eufy because they provide onboard storage. You do not have to go to their cloud. And so I also, I guess last fall I did a Synology NAS. I did a double disc, a two port Synology, a DS220 plus. First time I'd ever, because I had one of the remember the old MyClouds from
Mhm,
Western
mhm.
Digital? I had one of the really ancient ones. I got it when I worked at Best Buy. All right. So that would have been 2013, 2014, somewhere in there. And so I finally replaced it, got a Synology, put a couple of really good 1 terabyte or 2 terabyte. They call them Red Wolves, I think. They're meant
Yep,
for that kind
yep.
of work. And I'm loving that. And it actually has a add-in for doing monitoring of your cameras.
Mhm.
So if they're on your network. So I think that's where I might be heading to next. I got the Eufy doorbell, video doorbell on the front door. And I talked about doing some camera stuff. So I think that might be the next place I play.
Mhm.
My time is starting to free up a little bit. I think I've shared with you before here on the show in the audience that I am in formation in the Catholic Church to be
Mhm.
ordained as a permanent deacon. We have finally finished our academics. We've got just a couple academic local stuff left, and then it's a few retreats and vocation boards interviews and stuff like that. But we're scheduled to be ordained on the 11th of June,
Oh, good, good,
just a little
good.
more than about 50 or so days from now.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking now that classwork done, now my time is starting to come back to me a little bit, and I think that's might be my next kind of thing. I'd love to set this Synology up to kind of store my video, give me a
Mhm.
monitoring station for the video, and I like the Eufy only because it's onboard storage.
Yeah,
And you don't
yeah.
have to go to the cloud with it. And I actually have another camera, um, the one with the pan and tilt,
Mhm,
that when we're
mhm.
away, I plug it up so we can
Yeah,
track the cat and keep an eye on the
yeah,
inside of the house.
yeah.
But I had to mount it on a piece of board to kind of create this rig that it goes on the top shelf of a bookshelf to work.
Ah,
But
yeah, yeah, yeah,
again, it's just temporary. But I think
yeah.
the video thing is kind of an intriguing. Now, was that yours that you were looking at? All
Yeah,
Ring
so,
devices.
I these are all Ring devices. Let's switch over to that setting. Yeah, so showing
So
this on
your
screen right
garage, your
now.
front door.
Yep. Garage bottom right, front door bottom left, back deck top
Okay.
left,
Okay. I see it.
driveway top right.
Gotcha.
I just installed the garage cam, not because I needed to, but I needed to be complete and have 4 cams. It was bothering me.
Not to have just 3 blocks, right?
Just
Right.
3 blocks and an empty one. Now,
That's awesome.
you can pick up a stick up cam for $50, right? And so if you can buy them on Woot as cheap as 45. I think I paid
Stick
60.
up cam.
Ring stick up cam is what they're called. They're
Okay.
powered. They're meant for indoor. It's the one that went in the garage. In fact, I can see right now as I'm looking at this, my garage door is still open.
I see
So
that now. Yeah.
yeah. So it gives me the opportunity to be like, okay, when we're done with the
Oh,
show,
come on, Home Gadget Geek. Don't you have a button on a phone you can push to
I
close
don't,
that?
not yet.
Ah,
No, nope. Garage door is
garage
still
door is
not
very manual for
necessarily.
me too. Well,
It's
it's got a
yeah,
motor on it, but hey, knock on wood,
yeah.
that motor's been running for 18 plus years in this house.
I know you almost don't want to touch it, right?
Exactly.
But picked that up the last week and put the one in the garage, and it's been kind of nice. I can, I hear, yeah, I can hear Sarah coming in, but I can also see on the camera or whatever. In this case, this is doing what I wanted it to do, which
Right.
was, hey, make sure you shut the garage
Go shut
door.
your garage door. Do
you know,
what do you use motion to trigger them? Are they always
yeah.
recording? What do you do?
Yeah, no, they're motion only.
Okay.
They depending upon where they're located. So the ones that are plugged in, every 15 minutes it takes a snapshot, right? So that it's updating the camera. I don't try to do the real time stuff.
Gotcha.
It's just but just updated. Now that I'm working from home a couple days a week, it's nice when the delivery guy comes here. I can, when I hear
There goes
the
my
someone's
cat.
at the it's great. It's awesome. Um, I can tell I can just go over here on the monitor and click on it and see who the delivery driver was, or if there's
Right.
somebody that's there. So yeah, so they basically refresh about every 5 minutes. I get a new I get a new picture, and I can
So
see
you
if
have
it's.
a live monitor. You have a monitor that is always
I
showing you the
do.
views.
I
Okay,
do.
cool.
Yeah, I do. It's just one of those setups. So I just have a browser window open.
Sure.
Ring has made this a lot better over the last couple months. This was refreshing about every 12 hours and making you log back in at one point.
Oh, no
They took
kidding.
away the apps. There used to be a Windows app for this. They took it away and said, "No, we're not going to do it anymore. Just do the browser." They've extended this. So these stay now for a couple weeks before I need to kind of relog
Before
in
you
and
have to log back in.
reauthenticate. Yeah. So it allows me to
That's
keep
slick.
them in. Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. Um, that's been another addition for me that I've put in. I've been very happy with. I think I'm done with cameras.
Mm,
I've got just about everything. There's probably one place now I can't see, and it's okay. you
yeah.
know, I don't need that. So as you get into that, I think your thinking is right. You got the Synology. Look at the hardware that takes advantage of the Synology. There's a couple apps on there that'll do that for you, and it's a little addicting. You're home all the time. It's a little
Yeah.
addicting to take a look
Right,
outside. Like,
right. I
what's
got
the
to tell
weather
you,
like?
I've been really impressed with the Synology. I'd never used one before. You certainly knew the brand and stuff like that. So when I was researching to replace the MyCloud, I landed on Synology. There's a lot of choices out there, but Synology, I got to tell you, using their interface, their UI, which I access through a browser, it feels like an OS desktop, right? It's got icons on the desktop. It's got drop down menu that you could equate with a start menu. You can put any shortcut down there that you want. It's got monitoring of the system itself. It backs up my home computer, my main computer, and my wife's laptop once a day, and it's a differential backup. So once you've started your sequencing, it only backs up what changes each day. I have a thing that takes and accesses my my camera roll on OneDrive, and brings it down to the Synology and stores it. And then I have a UI that does facial recognition. I can tag people and things like that. So I have the ability. Search isn't as good as, say, Google Photos. Google Photo
Mhm,
search is pretty
mhm,
fantastic.
mhm,
But
mhm,
so even
mhm.
the Synology Photos app is very functional, to give you a timeline of your images and stuff like that. And it does it automatically. I don't have to think about it. So, and I think my photos now go to Amazon, they go to Google, and they go to OneDrive, and now they go to the Synology too. So I think all my camera rolls are dropping in like 4 different places. but it was great because when I did this, I cleaned up a lot of duplicate storage I had on the my cloud. And, so it enabled me to kind of really clean up my storage, how much I was using. So I like it. And it's another one of those things that when I first got it, I was geeking on it a whole lot, messing with the UI, checking this out, checking that out. Now it just kind of sits on the corner of my desk and does its thing. I don't have to do much to it. I just recently updated to newest release 7.1, but it's one of those fire and forgets that is extremely reliable.
Yeah.
And I think about technology. That's probably in my day and age and where I'm at in my life. I want that. Get it set up, get it rolling, and then just let it do. I like that. I don't want to have to be constantly tweaking it and to make it work or make it run. Yeah.
Do set up some kind of reminder to check it, once a month.
No, I get alerts. I do. If something weird's going on, I've got it. Again, this is Synology in their OS, is that I have the ability to set triggers that if it gets to a certain point, or is either whether it be the storage or whether it has this weird little whatever it might be, I do get alerts from the system that pops up, and because I have a browser, it's in my browser, and so I get a little icon, it increments the little number on the icon if there's something that I need to check. Plus emails and this, that, and everything else.
It's easy to let them go a couple months, and then you're like, you log in and you're a couple of.
Then you find out there's an issue.
Yeah. So my Drobo died a couple months ago, and I brought it back to life, and then was using it very sporadically, like just for little stuff, and then it died again. So I think I'm done. I'm going to shut that thing down and take it to Best Buy and recycle it. And I think it's time I kind of start thinking through like what's going to be the next generation of NAS device for me. Certainly our storage needs have drastically changed. I just don't need as much as I used to have, but
not at all.
Do like to have it,
Oh, so. I agree. And again, I think that NAS, we live in an age where we sync everything to the cloud, right? Comparing, let's say, back to the Windows 7 days before OneDrive, or back in those days, what was it, SkyDrive? Restoring a system was a lot of work, right? Because to get it all lined up. In this day and age, everything I do syncs to the cloud. Even my Outlook client accesses my Office 365 email account through the cloud. Yeah, there's local copies of things in the Outlook client, but everything's still set in the cloud too. So it's basically a duplicate of what's set in the cloud. And that makes things easier to restore. And Outlook's gotten smart, right? As long as I restore with the right account, it syncs my settings, it syncs my folder layouts, it does all that for me. So it has got a lot easier. I can probably get a system back up and running. I screwed up my BIOS and my desktop. I built this desktop during the pandemic, right? So I built a new desktop, and I updated. Again, this is one of those things, Jim, right? I'd not checked on the BIOS updates for a while, and I found out I was a few behind. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to jump to the last one. About killed my system. Luckily, I was able to, the motherboards on these newer devices, you can flash the BIOS using a flash drive without the computer being able to work. And so I was able to flash back to the BIOS I was on and got back to my system, and everything was still there. But so technology can be the bane of your existence, or it can really make things easier.
Yeah. There's nothing worse though than that BIOS stuff. And all of a sudden your heart just kind of sinks, and you're like, oh, it's going to be a long night.
This is the advice. Don't update your BIOS unless it's fixing something you're having an issue with, or there's a security issue. Otherwise, if it's working, leave it alone. And I'm telling that to myself. That was me that day. I was like, I can't believe I just killed my device.
Yeah, let it be. Well, Rich, thanks for taking the evening to hang out with me. Always great to catch up with you. Congratulations
Thanks
on the new role. I'm gonna watch you from the outside. You and I now have kind of similar roles, different in a lot of ways, but similar in
community.
What we're trying to do, grow community. Yeah, try to grow community, and we both have the privilege of just getting to work with people every day, and some great people who do things because they want to, which is the ultimate, right? You're not paying these enthusiasts to do this stuff. They do it because they're super excited about it. And that's a pretty great place to be, and a pretty good privilege. So congratulations on the new role.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And congratulations on the the graduation coming up.
For the diaconate. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah. You've been doing that for a while,
that
right? I mean,
this is 3 years in this
Yeah.
segment, but I had done
Wow.
3 years earlier as well. So it's a total of 6 years that
It's
you
like a
go through.
master's, or it's like a PhD kind of thing. So I hope, congratulations. That's a long
appreciate it.
commitment. I'd have given up a long time ago.
Doing papers and stuff like that and research papers when you're this stage in life is a little bit of a different beast than it might have been when I was 20 years old, but it's been a blessing. Yeah.
I have no patience. I have no patience for that. But then you put up with 30 years in the Navy. So yeah,
managed it. Yeah.
You've got the ability to do that. Get that done. Rich, hang tight with me here for a second.
Thanks.
Couple reminders on the way out. Big thanks to our Patreon subscribers. If you want to join the team that helps support Home Gadget Geeks, head out to theaverageguy.tv/support. I think theaverageguy.tv Patreon gets you there as well. Most of the conversation these days is going into Discord. That's our teams. So if you want to spend some time joining with the group of listeners here in the community that we have, join us over theaverageguy.tv/Discord and join in the conversation. By the way, not a lot, like it's not an overwhelming Discord. So if you're kind of thinking, I don't need one more thing to join our Discord, just a couple conversations a week. It's pretty nice. Rich, you know how sometimes forums can be overwhelming, right? They just, especially the busy ones, not our Discord. So head out to theaverageguy.tv/Discord. If you want to leave a message, you got a question, what have you, leave me a message, homegadgetgeeks.com. There's a little blue microphone on the bottom. You can just leave a message. Next week, my oldest son is coming to podcast with me, which is super cool. I've had Sarah, my wife, on here before. Sammy, of course, is famous on Home Gadget Geeks, my youngest daughter. But my son, who's a drummer, approached me a couple weeks ago and said, Dad, what do you think about just a drumming podcast? And I said, there's a bunch of them. And he's like, yeah, but he goes, I want to talk to people. Right. And he's like, I want to do that. I'm like, yeah, so come on the show. So I said, why don't we start by having you on Home Gadget Geeks, and you can just get warmed up, practice, see if this is even something you want to do. So Rich, pretty
Very
great
cool.
when your oldest son says,
kidding. And there is a lot of technology around drums and percussion and stuff like that as well, if you wanted to get into that.
Yeah. Click track devices, special. I mean, the pads they have now, and the technology around the sampling and the pads and all the wireless gear. I mean, there's just, in the performance space, there is just a ton of great stuff. I was chatting with Rich O'Neill, who, longtime listener, Rich's random podcast generator back in the day, and he's playing again. And I said, dude, we could have you on just to talk about the tech that you're using, that you play with. There's so much tech and music now. So next week, the 28th, I canceled we were going to do kind of a news show. I canceled that, and Phil's coming on. My oldest, we're going to talk about as well. If you got any show ideas or anything you want us to talk about, send me an email, jim@theaverageguy.tv. And of course, the AverageGuy.tv platform, both web and media hosting, powered by Maple Grove Partners. Get secure, reliable, high-speed hosting from people that you know and you trust. Plans still. Inflation-proof plans, $10, price not changing. You can get hosting, media hosting, whatever you need out there. MapleGrovePartners.com. We are live every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, out here at theaverageguy.tv/live. If you're listening to the podcast, come out and join us live. Love to have you out here. Always a great experience. Rich, thanks again for coming out tonight.
Thanks for having me on.
And for those live listeners, thanks for coming. With that, we'll say goodbye.